As I mentioned in the previous Path to Halloween movie review, there is another anthology franchise coming up, which I want to review. The VHS movies. And I start, of course, with the first one. Just as a heads up, I won't review all the movies which are currently released, as some are simply not easily available in my region, and I won't spend like $30 for one of these movies, especially if I haven't seen them before. I try to get through half of the franchise, so the movies which I watched at least once before. I remember watching VHS for the first time vividly, at least the beginning. We watch a couple of young men just harassing people and committing petty crimes, up until the point when it gets really sinister. The group is harassing a couple in a parking garage, and they start groping and pulling on the woman's clothes, something that feels surprisingly real and evil and sleazy. So much that it stuck in my mind. It's probably the only really terrifying scene in the movie. I don't want to talk the movie down now, but there is not much that scares me or affects me in horror movies anymore. But this just feels so slimy, it's stuck with me. The rest of the stories are mostly supernatural and give me the feeling of this being unreal. It's just make-believe, and the frame story also deteriorates to nonsense, just like the other frame stories in the other VHS movies I watched. But those scenes in the parking lot, they just feel real. Anyways, the group breaks into an old man's house, and they are starting to steal VHS, and look for anything else they can steal. Soon they discover that the old man is dead, but they still start watching the tapes, as they are looking for a specific tape. What follows are a couple of shorts with varying quality and themes. There are a couple of guys who are trying to film getting laid with some kind of Google glasses. While they look for some easy prey, they soon are hunted by a much scarier predator. The next story is about a couple which is traveling through the US in their honeymoon, when they are suddenly stalked and harassed by an unknown intruder. The intruder seems to just torment them until the true identity of the intruder is revealed. The next story, called Tuesday the 17th, is basically some kind of Friday the 13th ripoff, but with a twist, and the killer being a video glitch or entity which only is visible through camera lenses. The next story is actually pretty creepy and simple, but different and intriguing. A woman has Skype video calls with her boyfriend, and she tells him about some injuries and sounds she is hearing in the night. The reveal is pretty great actually, and leaves you with a lot of questions and lets your imagination run wild with what is going on here and what happened before and after these events. I liked it quite a bit. Well done. The last story, and probably my favorite, is the story of a bunch of guys going to a Halloween party. But they end up at the wrong location and find themselves in some kind of ritual, and from there everything escalates pretty much. Like with the All Hallows Eve movies, the stories here are quite a mixed bag, which is understandable as they are very different and back then young directors who are trying to make something interesting with very little money. But overall, it's of a higher quality than All Hallows Eve. The first story, which a lot of people like, is okay in my opinion. The second honeymoon was a good but simple idea stretched out way too far and a little bit boring in my opinion. But that's maybe a general thing I have with Ty West. I know a lot of people really love him, but so far I didn't like most of what he did. His short in the ABCs of Death was even insultingly bad in my opinion. Tuesday the 17th was also okay, but feels a bit out of place, but can be fun. Upon rewatching it, I couldn't take it seriously though, as the guy from Poltergeist is playing a part here, and it completely broke my immersion. I expected him to start singing or being terribly humiliated at any moment.
You just won the contest. What contest? The wet t-shirt contest, mother! Well, see you around, old guy who seems to know a lot about me for no apparent reason. Oh, and by the way, you got served.
Yeah, well, that's not for me. I got a plan B. I know it's legit. It's been on TV. I'll be all that I can be in the army. In the army.
The last one is really a great surprise. It's imaginative, thrilling, and offers some twists and turns. It's also the only one which looks like it was filmed with an actual VHS camera, like it could have been filmed with an actual VHS camera. The other ones look too much like something which has just a video filter over it. For the other ones it just doesn't make sense. They shouldn't have video quality in the first place, as most episodes are filmed obviously with quite modern digital cameras. It should be very pixelated if they are old. It also doesn't make sense that they are on VHS. They should rather be on CD or DVD or a hard drive. I guess they just thought VHS would be creepier as it's older and looks different, but they should have thought it through better. The framing story is pretty bad in my opinion, as I mentioned before. It's just boring and nonsensical from the point when they break into the house. It's a bit of a shame, as I usually like the framing stories in anthologies, for example in Creepshow or the Tales from the Crypt TV show. But here it's really disappointing. VHS is pretty uneven. Some episodes aren't that good, the VHS style is not very consequent in my opinion, and the movie is way too long for me, with almost 2 hours. While I like some episodes very much, it's overall just okay, and I'm most disappointed with the framing story, as it was written by Simon Barrett and directed by Adam Wingard, who have a pretty solid horror track record. Well, at least at that point they made only You're Next and The Guest, and I fucking love The Guest. It's not a must-see, especially not on Halloween. It could be much better, but there is some fun, but some of the stories are quite fun, and some are quite creepy. It's not great, but also not terrible. It's at least better as All Hallows Eve, and I will give VHS a 6 out of 10.
Now haven't you heard? A career in fast food is like polishing turds. It may shine like a diamond or sparkle a bit, but a turd is a turd, it's still just a shit.